In this lesson, we will learn about Azure regions. First, we'll give the definition and characteristics of Azure regions. Then we will learn about region pairs, region pair data residency, and region pair benefits. After that, we will learn about sovereign regions and how to select an Azure regions. And finally, we will conclude our lesson with review questions. Let's get started with Azure regions. As you may know, Azure provides over 60 regions globally. Every region is contained within a single geography that serves as a fixed data residency boundary. For example, this map shows us East US, and if you choose East US as your data center, then Microsoft will not move your data out of East US or at the minimum out of US. However, if you work for a multinational company and you have multiple Azure regions, you can move your own data from one Azure regions to another if the law permits. An Azure region consists of one or more data centers connected by high-capacity, fault-tolerant, low-latency network connections. Each Azure region provides the same set of services which may or may not be available in other regions. Please note that some global Azure services that do not require to select a particular region, such as Microsoft Entra ID, Azure Traffic Manager, and Azure DNS. Most Azure regions are paired with another region within the same geography at least 300 miles away to ensure disaster recovery, high availability, data residency compliance, and reduce downtime. Most regions in a pair maintain two-way replication of Azure resources to each other so that they can provide a backup for each other. However, some regions are paired in only one direction. In a one-direction pairing, the primary regions does not provide backup for its secondary regions. So in this map, East US is paired with West US in two-way replication, which means East US can provide a backup for West US and West US can provide a backup for East US. To maintain data residency, Azure pairs regions within the same broader geographic area, for example, Europe, US, or Asia. However, there are exceptions. For example, Brazil South has its pair in South Central US for tax and law enforcement purposes. However, this pairing is one-way, meaning Brazil South is replicating its data to South Central US, but South Central US is not replicating its data to Brazil South. To provide its backup, the South Central US is paired with North Central US in two-way directions. Here are the two main benefits of Azure region pair. For any planned Azure updates, the updates are rolled out to pair regions, one region at a time, to minimize downtime and risk of application outage. When a region in a pair was affected by a natural disaster, civil unrest, power outages, or physical network outages, services would automatically fail over to the other region in its region pair. For example, in this map, East US and West US are paired in two-way direction. When Microsoft is to roll out an update to Azure Storage, it will send the update to East US first. Then when making sure everything is fine, it will send the update to West US. Now West US is down for a network outage. Then Microsoft will trigger the service failover and East US data center will provide the services for both East US and West US. For compliance or legal purposes, Azure offers sovereign regions, which are physical and logical network isolated instances of Azure. For example, in US, it offers US Department of Defense Central, US Government Virginia, US Government Iowa, and more. These regions for US government agencies and partners. These data centers are operated by screened US personnel and include additional compliances. In China, Azure offers China East, China North, and more. These regions are available through a unique partnership between Microsoft and 21 Vianet. Microsoft doesn't directly maintain the data centers. Here is the information of China North sovereign regions. As you can see, it certifies these regional compliances and these global compliances. To select the right Azure regions for your data center, you must answer at least 3 questions below. First, are there any requirements for your data residencies? This is to make sure your data is stored in the location required by law and policies. Second, which services you are going to provide to the end users. As you know, some Azure services are not available in all Azure regions. So prepare a list of services that you are going to use. Then make sure these services are offered in the Azure regions you select. And finally, what are the locations of the end users? The location of end users is important because end users must connect to your services via a network connection. Therefore, the closer to the end user, the better performance your services have. You should select the regions that is close to your end users. This Azure Speed Test website allows you to select Azure regions, and it will give you the network latency between the Azure regions and your current location. You will find the link to the website in the description of this video. Now let's select some Azure regions. In this case, I will select Australia Central, Australia East, France Central, Germany West Central, Central US, and East US. Now let's scroll all the way down to the end of the page, and you will see the network latencies for each location. Now let's scroll up and you will see the recommended Azure regions. And in this case, it is Central US, East US, and France Central because they have the lowest network latency. Let's conclude our lesson with review questions.